and thank you to the museum for giving us this opportunity to talk about this project that we're very excited about. The developers couldn't be here tonight, so I'm going to put my developer hat a little bit on and talk to you about some of the aspects of the design as it relates to that. You know, the thing about design is that, and what we do is, it's really a kind of an amalgamation. It's a product of many, many different aspects. There's the programmatic aspect, there's the budget, there's the time frame, there's phasing, the legal as well, and the zoning, as we were talking about earlier, that impacts the building and what results from all of that. We had a great opportunity here to design this building. This is 155,000 square foot, 50-story tower that is, in fact, 50 feet wide in its main site here. The lot is an interesting lot because it's the construction area here is actually 75 feet in width, and it goes back 99 feet. And then there's another lot on 22nd Street, which is going to become the main entrance to our building. And there is a 35-foot wide lot, which will become the second building that is being designed by OMA, and we're working with them on that as well. The interesting story here, I think, on the real estate side, which has always been fascinating to me, was what one could do with what's known as a zoning lot merger, and how it creates such incredible opportunities for unique buildings. Although we have the 75-foot width here, we also had within our site the air rights over the adjacent building to the west, and additional air rights to buildings to the east. So when we talk about FAR, although the zoning FAR is 10, in fact, when you look at the FAR for the site specifically that you're building on, it could be much higher than that. It could be over 21, 22. So that's the kind of interesting real estate story. Now, once that kind of site is put together, and we have then opportunities for light and air easements all around the tower, we're not as concerned about lot line windows, because we don't have lot line windows. We have a site which would allow us to create a building which could take advantage of the views all around. So that was something that, you know, is a little different than the first building that was presented, but because here, how do we take a building and a site, very, very small footprint? The actual footprint is 3,300 square feet. How do we create a building that will combine the technological requirements with the programmatic requirements for creating units in here in a way that will then be combined with an aesthetic approach that our firm has been taking, where we're utilizing glass in ways where we try to be contextual, but yet using materials that one would consider modern or contemporary. The site, let's just go over the site a minute. The site that you saw in the previous overall site plan is on 23rd Street. It's at the corner. It actually is not in front of the park, but actually at the end of Madison Avenue. And that's something that's very unique, and you can see here the view from one of the upper floors above the 30th floor, that we had an opportunity to create a building that doesn't exist in too many places in New York. And you could probably count them on two hands when you would find a site like this, where you could take advantage of this kind of long perspective within the building. The other thing is that closer into the site is this beautiful park that we have right here, and we wanted to create a building and apartments which could take maximum advantage of this. Here you see, this is a rendering, a photographic montage of the building as it will finally look. The building is getting close to being completed. It'll be completed, I think, the end of this year. People will start actually moving in, I think, this summer in the lower parts of the building. But we wanted to be sensitive to the fact that we were close to the park, that interestingly that we had a site where we had the MetLife Tower as well, where there was already the precedent of a tall, small tower over the park, and we wanted to do something that would create some dialogue with that building. Now, the phasing was also a very important part of how this building was actually going to get built. You see here in this elevation, this is the 23rd Street elevation. There was a plan to phase the construction, and the first part of the first phase, which the tower sits on, is only 50 feet wide. This lot adjacent to us was actually now in construction. It's in the ground. So in order to move forward, we realized early on that this building would have to be cantilevered over this site here, over this 25-foot site to our east. And the building then started to take on a shape and an organization which would allow for that cantilever to occur on the east side of the building. The cantilever, as it turns out, is 9 feet, which was very interesting. You'll see in the plan very few columns actually in the building, but that 9-foot cantilever was something that, as we started to combine the requirements of the structure with the design of the building, with also the desire to maximize the views around it, started to dictate how we were going to do this. The other thing about residential buildings is to try to create a mix of apartment types. It's very important. We knew that this building was going to be tall, it was going to be slender, it would not have an opportunity for setbacks, it was going to be very compact in plan. But because of this idea of the cantilever, that led us to further think about creating apartments that could actually have terraces all the way up the building at various points that would be incorporated into that wouldn't affect the structure. The main elements of the structure could continue through the building, but we could cantilever all these floors, and you'll see how that works in the plan. I want to also just emphasize here that this part of the city has not seen a lot of new construction. It's many historic buildings. It has a kind of a warm palette of colors. It's limestone, brick is used extensively. But we knew that we were going to be designing a very tall building. We knew that a tall building has moments and reactions to lateral loads that maybe could be impact the kind of material that one would use. We thought of using a glass system because we knew that that was a material that would allow for the kinds of movement that we would expect in a very tall, slender building. Now, this idea, people are talking about this and calling them pods. That idea of creating these terraced units here actually had a very positive effect on the structural design of the building. When you have a very long, tall face, as we have here on both sides, the wind reacts differently than if the face is broken up. So here we had an opportunity to combine the programmatic requirement to create a different kind of unit with the structural requirement to break up these very long, thin planes, and that's something that really kind of helped us create this form and this shape. Now, from this, this is also a rendering, but you can see here, this is, if you could fly outside of the building, how this is beginning to come together. These wraparound terraces, the MetLife Tower to the right here. It's a little bit taller than our building, and I think that most people who will live in 1 Madison Park will never be late for a meeting. Now, here are some actual construction photographs of that terrace as it wraps around here. This is on the 23rd Street side. See the MetLife Tower there. Incredible views from all different vantage points. Here, this is on the north side looking at Empire State Building, obviously here. The park is below here. Now, the way that the plans were organized, we have 69 apartments in this, and the initial thought was that where there was a setback, or the terrace floor, this would be 1 apartment per floor. It's a 3-bedroom unit. It has incredible views in all directions. The terrace wraps around two sides. You can go from one room to another here in a way that's very, very unique. There's not very much like that in New York. Now, when you look at the way that the structure is worked into this, there's the lateral, and I don't want to rain on your parade here. But I think it's interesting because the way that the structure was integrated with the apartment layout was, I think, the key to the success of what we were trying to achieve. Because we were able to laterally provide structure in this direction here and around the core, so that we didn't have to have a lot of columns along the perimeter. And that gave us the maximum amount of glass and openness. And this is a recent construction photograph, again, where you're seeing the terrace on the outside here. This column now, you'll see how it moves on the other floors. This column continues straight through. This is on the northwest corner of the building here, all open, just two columns here, and they don't even look that big. Now, the other idea was that this floor, when we don't have the terrace, could have been divided into two apartments. So we have a number of floors like that, but as it turned out through the series of, this amount of time that we spent in designing the building, many people decided to do a combination. So we have a number of floors where even in this larger floor, it's one apartment. But basically, in each apartment, there's just a multitude of views both to the north, to the south, to the east, or to the west. Even if you're waiting for the elevator here, you have a view to the south. There's a window here that opens right up to that view. And here now you see where we have, this is one of those floors where the column is just continuing straight. This corner is wide open. And it works very well with the plan. The way that we approached the exterior wall was that we wanted to create, we knew there were going to be incredible views when we got up to these higher floors. We didn't want to create a static line, a horizontal line where operable window is, where the vision panels are. We mixed it with vertical, full-height glass. We sometimes moved the mullions to the upper part of the module, sometimes to the lower. So the views, the architecture is helping to frame the views. Here you see it again. At the top of the building is a 6,400 square foot triplex apartment. It has a 2-story high living room that will look out right over to the Empire State Building. The building, I think, begins to talk to the MetLife Tower because it becomes the gateway into the Madison Square Park area here. The two buildings are very, very close in height. Of course, this one is a little bit taller. Now, Sylvian will get into this further, but with such a slender building and with very few columns along the perimeter, we had a very interesting way of keeping the building from this movement, and he'll go into that further about the tuned mass dampers. Sylvian?
Thank you.